Chapter 4, Choosing a Form of Business Ownership. Here are the learning objectives. So, sole proprietorship. Often entrepreneurs with a promising idea choose the sole proprietorship form of ownership. That's just usually, that's owned by one person. So a business owned by one person. Here's a graph showing relative percentages of sole proprietorships, partnerships, and corporations in the U.S. As you can see, there's 72% of businesses are sole proprietorships, bringing in $24.1 million. Corporations are 18% and partnerships are 10%. However, here is a graph that shows the total sales of sole proprietorships versus partnerships and corporations. So sole proprietorships bring in $1.3 trillion, which is only 4% of the money that comes into businesses. Partnerships bring in $5.1 trillion and corporations bring in $30.2 trillion. So most of the advantages of sole proprietorships arise from the two main characteristics of this form of ownership: simplicity and individual control. The disadvantages of sole proprietorships stem from the fact that businesses are owned by one person. A partnership often represents a pooling of special managerial skills and talents. At other times, it is the result of a sole proprietor taking on a partner to add to its money or its capital. A written agreement is not subject to lapse of memory like an oral agreement can be. So that's why a partnership agreement, while it can be an oral agreement, it should be a written agreement for obvious reasons. And here is an example of what articles of partnership should look like. Partnerships are the least common form of business ownerships. The disadvantages of partnerships should be considered along with the advantages. Corporations overcome many of the sole proprietorship and partnership disadvantages. So corporate ownership. So even if you own a single share of stock, you're legally part owner of a corporation. Here are 10 aspects of a business that may require legal help. So forming a corporation, where to incorporate. You know, this a lot of times is just decided on the laws and tax rules in the different states. So Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming are popular because of their corporation-friendly laws. So I could decide to start a corporation in Michigan, but I may want to incorporate the corporation in Nevada, even though I'm not doing any of the business there, because of their corporate-friendly laws and tax rules. There's different types of corporations. You could be a domestic corporation, which is just a corporation in the state in which it's incorporated. A foreign corporation is just where you're incorporated in a state that's different than where you usually do business. And then an alien corporation. It's a corporation chartered by a foreign government and conducting business in the U.S. And then every corporation has to have a contract or a corporate charter. And these are all the things that are covered in that contract. So stockholders' rights. There's two basic types of stock. There's common stock, and with common stock, voting rights matter the most. Or there's preferred stock, where with preferred stock, the money matters the most. Generally, smaller corporations issue only common stock. So there's stockholders' rights to consider, and they include payments, voting, and information. And then the last step of forming a corporation is the incorporators and original stockholders meet to adopt bylaws and elect a board of directors. So a board of directors is elected during the organizational meeting. And then that board ends up appointing officers, all the corporate officers, the chief operating officer, the chief executive officer, the chief information officer, the financial officer, those types of positions. And here's a flow chart showing the direction of the hierarchy of corporate structure. First, stockholders elect the board of directors, who appoint the officers who hire the employees. Advantages of corporations. Corporations have more advantages than any other forms of ownership. However, the disadvantages of corporations can be significant. Here's a table identifying the advantages and disadvantages of a sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. Now, there's different types of corporation. You can choose to be an S corporation or an S corp. This type of corporation, as long as you meet all the criteria, can prevent double taxation. An LLC, or a limited liability company, provides personal asset protection, which means if you're not a limited liability company and you're a corporation, if something happens, if somebody sues your business, whether you're a corporation or partnership or sole proprietorship, then when they sue you, they can take all of your items or everything that belongs to you. But with a limited liability company, there's limits to that liability. And here's a table showing the pros and cons of a regular corporation, an S corp, and a limited liability corporation. And then we've got not-for-profit corporations. They focus on a mission rather than a profit. And then two more types of ownership used are for special purposes. We've got a joint venture and a syndicate. So when carefully planned and controlled, growth from within can have little adverse effect on a firm. However, there are mergers. That's the combining of two companies or other business entities to form one business. A pretty popular merger that I think of is Dow Corning and Dow Chemical. So there's three types of mergers. There's horizontal merger, a vertical merger, and a conglomerate merger. And here's a visual identifying three types of growth by merger. There are differing opinions regarding mergers and acquisitions. Whether people feel they are right or wrong, they will continue to happen. This is a way that a lot of corporations continue to grow, is through mergers. And that is it. Thank you.